Hey, sports fans, welcome back to another episode of Bucky's Sports Show. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the week that Indiana State Athletics had. It was a very busy week, so let's get into it. First off, softball got its final weekend of the fall schedule. They played Southwestern Illinois College and the University of Illinois. I could not find anything on the Indiana State-Illinois game, and all I could find on the Southwestern Illinois College game was that Indiana State won 13-8. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Southwestern Illinois College, but I think 8 runs is way too much. They have the rest of the fall to get that cleaned up. They will not play again until February, so they do have some time to clean that up. But 8 runs, just a little too many, in my opinion. I could be wrong. They could be one of the best programs out there at their division, and that's it. Still, 8 runs is a lot. 13's not bad. 8 seems too high. I did search to try and find the Illinois score. I could not find that anywhere. Indiana State softball's Twitter did not post it. Illinois softball Twitter did not post it. Anyway, we'll move on. I wish I had a score for that, but I don't. Women's golf. They played at the Butler Fall Invitational on Monday and Tuesday. They had a pretty solid round. They tied for 7th. Again, they tied / beat who they needed to. But Butler's a Big East school. All the others were kind of their size school. You had Akron, Marshall, Loyola, Chicago, Dayton, Belmont, Lindenwood, UIC, Bellarmine, Green Bay, Northern Kentucky, Southern Indiana. Tied for 7th. This is a tournament they finished 11th in last year. So they've tied for 7th. They tied with Belmont. So really, it wasn't all bad. And then the other Missouri Valley team they had in there, UIC, they beat. So a pretty solid couple of days for the Sycamores. For them, they had Yang Tai, the senior, finishing sixth place. She went 73, 69, 76. So she finished +8 on the tournament. Kira Brazo went 71, 77, 74, finished +12. Sophia Floric 76, 76, 77 for +19. Elena Gilbert went 80, 81, 74 to finish +25. Gabby Cohn was 81, 81, 84 to finish +36. The score that sticks out to me is Alana Gilbert, going 80, 81, 74. In their first meet, she played as a individual and went 74, 79, 80. Here, playing that last round, 74. She's obviously got the capabilities to be in the mid-70s. I think she's got to get comfortable and have the confidence to do that. Now you're talking sophomore. Gilbert had a solid freshman season. She started in 8 of the 10 tournaments they played in. She shot 72 twice as her college low. She was able to finish tied for 5th, was her best finish. So she's capable. I don't. The 80-81 back-to-back is kind of a tough start for her, I think. And then when you look at the others, Sophia Florek, she's going to be the 75, 76, 77 person. She was right there. Kira Brazo, she threw up a 77 amongst a 71 and a 74. Obviously, if you can play a solid round that and be around the same numbers the entire time, that's better. But I don't think the conditions were too hard on that second round because Yang Tai went 69. So, once they all start putting together consistent rounds, I think this is going to be a pretty good golf team. Because even Tai, 73, 69, then 76. Just kind of a tough finish for her. But overall, better finish than last year. You tied Belmont, who's a Missouri Valley team. You beat University of Illinois Chicago, who's a Missouri Valley team. So you went in, you did what you were supposed to do. We will go on to cross country. Cross country had an interesting weekend. They ran at Notre Dame. The Indiana State women, they ran against Notre Dame, South Carolina, Boise State, Grand Valley State, Liberty, Ohio, Bradley, Cincinnati, Kansas State, Colorado State, Charlotte, Illinois, Iowa, Miami of Ohio, Wyoming, Youngstown State, Western Michigan, Purdue, Milwaukee. Some really good teams in this invite. Indiana State finished 15th. Their best finisher was Brittany Burek. She finished 55th with a time of 17 minutes, 10.5 seconds. The only other one in the top 60 overall was Peyton Smith. She had a time of 17 minutes, 13.1 seconds. And really, the other finishers weren't far behind. Sawyer DeWitt, 17 minutes, 36.6 seconds. Hadley Gradoff, 17 minutes, 44.9 seconds. And Emma Greshman, 17 minutes, 46.8 seconds. So that was kind of their top 5 there for scoring purposes. And then Nister Grant, she finished 6th, right, not too far behind at 17 minutes, 49 seconds. Others competing, Allie Steffi, Eve Scher, and Hallie Miller. Kind of when you're facing teams like that, it's kind of just a tough finish because you look at Brittany Burek and Peyton Smith, 17-10, 17-13. They were 55, 59, and then 1736 is 105. So there's almost 50 people that finished in a 20-second, 23-second time span. And then 116, 118 was how Sycamores finished. So didn't have awful day. Notre Dame, which they should. They should win on their home course. Their 7 runners went 1, 4, 7, 8, 9, 13, 20. Just spectacular finish for them. And really, the only team close to them was South Carolina, who their scoring was 3, 6, 10, 11, 17. So overall, not not an awful performance there for the women. For the men at Notre Dame, okay, so for the men, they ran in a different division. Notre Dame had the blue and gold. The women ran in the blue. The men ran in the gold. Running against the men were University of Chicago, St. Thomas, Minnesota, Western Ontario, IU Indianapolis, Windsor, Kansas State, Indiana State, Eastern Michigan, Wisconsin, Green Bay, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Wright State, Marquette, Goshen, DePaul, Valpo, Milwaukee, Spring Arbor, Robert Morris, Western Illinois, Kent State, Ferris State. Indiana State came in 7th in this race. And again, it's kind of like I talked with the golf. They beat the other Missouri Valley team. They went in, they did what they needed to do. They beat who they're going to have to beat here in a couple weeks. And beat Valpo by almost 100 points there. Actually, they beat them over 100 points. 208 to 362. So it wasn't the worst. But for the men, Ryan York, he came in 7th, 24 minutes, 31.5 seconds. Then a big gap here for about 30 seconds. 33rd, Brian Handy came in 25 minutes, 5 seconds. Emerson Feynman, 25-26. Chris Angeles, 25-29. And Parker Mimbella, 25-36. That was their scoring. The others were Will Kozlowski, 25-52, Xander Fackler, 25-59, and Jasim Grant, 26-09. Again, not the worst. And I don't know how they decided who ran in what groupings. I don't know if it was based on times or what. But very nice to see that Indiana State's women were considered good enough there to run in the same as Notre Dame and some of those other bigger schools. Not that the men didn't run against Kansas State and some others. But it looks like the blue was kind of the main event. Again, don't know why the men didn't run in that. Doesn't really say. We'll move on. Also on Friday night was the cross-country town twilight that's hosted at Laverne Gibson and Terre Haute. And Indiana State had runners in that as well. They did not have a team in that. They just had individuals. For the women, Hallie Mimbella, she finished 10th with a 23:45.2. Robin Schimmel was 16th at 24:28.1. And Ada Sabo was 21st with 24:51.6 for the women. For the men, Alex Alvarez was 11th with a time of 27:19.8. And Jaquel Thorpe was 16th with a time of 27:31.9. And that's really all they had there. And again, some of the teams that were running in this, Western Kentucky won. Then you had Rose Holman, Grace, Vincennes, Greenville, St. Mary of the Woods, IU Columbus, Central State. But Western Kentucky coming in, and that's the men's side of things. And Vincennes men ranked 24th on the season. On the women's side, again, you had the the same teams: Western Kentucky, Grace, Vincennes, Rose Holman, Greenville, St. Mary of the Woods, IU Columbus, Central State. Grace is number 12 in their division. Vincennes number 15 in theirs. And what I like most about this one is it includes the high school. And there are 35 boys high school teams that ran in that. And I am just looking, and it's disappointing that I only see one or two local teams participate in that. And the girls, they had 28 teams. And again, I'm only seeing one, maybe two local teams in that. Kind of a neat event where high school can run and get some exposure from college coaches, in my opinion. We will move on to women's soccer. We have two games to talk about. Last Sunday, the 28th, Indiana State went on the road to play Evansville. Indiana State came away with a 2-0 victory. Indiana State got goals from Brooklyn Woods. That was on a penalty kick. And Skylar Cano, and that was assisted by Caitlin Long. In this, Indiana State, they got 20 shots off, 10 of them on goal. Evansville, they had 13 shots, 7 of them on goal. Obviously, Indiana State had 7 saves. Evansville only had the 8, allowing those 2 goals to go in. Corner kicks, they were 1 each, and fouls, Indiana State had 13 to Evansville's 14. And Tori Angelo did pick up a yellow card for Indiana State in this game. In this, like we talked about, Woods and Cano, both getting goals. But Alex Leonard, 5 shots, 2 of them on goal. Just couldn't get either one of those to fall. Nice road win. Anytime you can go on the road and win in the Valley, that's a good road win. We'll move on to this afternoon's game. This was Indiana State at Drake. Drake won this game 3-0. I don't have words for what happened in this game. I really don't. All of Drake's goals were scored off of rebounds. Delaney Timmons, the goalkeeper for Indiana State, she had 6 saves. The unfortunate part to that is 3 of those saves had rebounds that she didn't have help with. They're just kind of high, and the defense couldn't corral the rebounds once Timmons had to jump or dive for the save. It just seemed to go to Drake all 3 times. Their second and third goals, they were scored within a minute of each other, which is wild. And it was almost exactly the same play. But the stat of this game, Drake absolutely dominated this game. They absolutely dominated this game. And it's unfortunate that those saves had rebounds that led to scores, because Indiana State didn't get a shot. Indiana State did not get a shot off in this game. Shots were 16-0. 9 on goal for Drake, 0 for Indiana State. 0. You play for 90 minutes and you can't get a shot off? I mean, Drake was amazing. Won't lie about that. But my goodness, you got at least muster one shot. And then you don't get any corner kicks. Drake won that 8-0. So the only thing they did was foul and get a yellow card. And I watched the majority of the second half of this game because the Colts game was a blowout. Wow. It was an absolute nightmare for the Sycamores. Absolute nightmare for the Sycamores. With that, though, in the past week, Indiana State did pick up a win. So they're up to 5 points in the standings. Illinois, they're tied for third with Illinois State. Drake, they're 3-0-1. They've not lost. So they're up to 10 points in the standings there. Kudos to them because they dominated that. They just absolutely dominated that. Now let's move on to volleyball. Volleyball Friday night went to Carbondale to take on the Salukis of Southern Illinois. And the Indiana State Sycamores came out with a 3-1 victory. They won set 1, 25-22. Set 2 was 26-24. Set 3 went to the Salukis, 25-17. And Indiana State won the fourth one, 25-23. And again, when you look at the stats here, it's kind of surprising when you look at it. Because I talk about that 20 to 25% range that you need to hit. Indiana State only hit 17.7. And Southern Illinois hit 23. So, not a great game for Indiana State. And this, and I've talked about service errors don't normally kill a team. But when the differential is 11-3 and they happen at the critical point in the match, that's probably what got Southern Illinois on this night. That was Southern Illinois' first Missouri Valley Conference loss. So Indiana State picked up a huge road win there. Looking at the sets here, in set 1, went out to a 4-4, and then Indiana State went on a big run. Chloe Gilly served, got out to an 11-4 lead. And then Southern Illinois would try to go on a couple smaller runs, and Indiana State just wouldn't let them regain control of that set. This is actually a set that Southern Illinois never held the lead. They tied it up a few times early and at 22-22, but they could not jump over and take the lead. Very, very well played set, with the exception of you're up 17-11 and you let them come back to get it tied 22-22. You got to finish that out. You got to start finishing that out. Those small runs, you got to find a way to get those. And some of those were on errors. They were hitting errors. So if Indiana State would have hit a little better, things might have maybe they would have held off a little better. Set 2, Southern Illinois got out to a 5-0 lead. Indiana State just kind of started chipping away, got it back to 9-9. Went on a 5-point run with Avery Hills serving. And then they just kind of traded points back and forth for basically the rest of the way. Each team kind of went on a couple point run here and there, but At 23-23, Southern Illinois took a 24-23 lead, and then Indiana State, they scored 3 straight to win 26-24. Outside of the big runs there at the start, not much else happened. Just kind of trading back and forth points. A lot of long volleys in this that made this match particularly interesting. Set 3, again, this one started with both teams kind of going back and forth on points. It got to 9-9, and Southern Illinois, they scored 8 in a row to take a 17-9 lead. Indiana State tried to get back into it. They got it to 20-15, but really they could never really climb back into it. And Southern Illinois finished 25-17. Set 4, Southern Illinois jumped out 2-0. Indiana State scored the next 4. They jumped out to a 9-4 lead. Extended it to 12-6. And then Southern Illinois kind of started coming back. Got to 12-9, then 13-11, 15-13, 17-16. They eventually got it tied at 19-19. Indiana State then scored 3 in a row. And then Southern Illinois cut it to 23-22, and then they just traded points out for Indiana State to win set 4 and the match 25-23. But like I said, fantastic road win. Your leaders in this one. Kills, Kiara Holland had 17. Curry Kendall had 11. And Hadley Harderson showing up with 10. Another fantastic match for her. Ella Scott, Chloe Gilly, Ava Robart all had 1 ace. Hadley Harderson had 3 blocks. Kimora Whetstone and Curry Kendall both had 2. Assist, Avery Hells had 22, Emily Weber 21, Chloe Gilly 5. Diggs, Kiara Holland 16, Emily Weber 15, Chloe Gilly 13. That's another double-double for Kiara Holland. 17 kills, 16 digs. Pretty solid night. Pretty good night for her. And then Saturday night. This was a complete opposite tale in this game. They played at Evansville. Evansville won 3-1. The set scores were 17-25, 16-25. Sycamores figured it out in set 3, got 25-11 win there, and then went 20-25. I talk about hitting percentage. Set 1, ISU hit 5%. 5%. Set 2, they hit -2%. Negative percentage. At the end of the first 2 sets, they were hitting 2%. 2%. Set 3, they figured it out a little bit, hit 19%. Set 4, 26%. You have those percent, and still you can only muster 11% hitting percentage. 11%. Evansville was 21. That's probably your difference there. In all actuality, watching this, Indiana State looks slow. They look slow. They look lethargic. Like they didn't want to be there. And, I talked about the last one. And in the past, that normally service errors don't matter. And this is another one. Evansville had 15 of them. Indiana State 5. But when you have a hitting percentage and you have 1, 2, 3 people with a negative percentage, you're not going to get it done. And then Ava Robart, who's one of your best hitters on the team, she only had 4 kills, 4 errors. So she was 0%. Really, just a really bad night for volleyball team. Looking at the set scores here, set 1, Evansville got out to 7-2 lead. Then they extended it to 13-5. Indiana State did battle back and get it to 18-15. Then Evansville just kind of extended it to 21-15. Indiana State could never really get a rally going after that, and it finished 25-17. Set 2 was a lot of the same. Indiana State had a 10-9 lead. Evansville tied it at 10, and from there on, it was all aces. They extended the lead to 18-12, 22-13, and won 25-16. Then set 3 happened. Indiana State came out. They looked good. They looked like what I was expecting to see the entire match. They got out to a 6-2 lead. Evansville cut to 6-4. And then Indiana State scored 10 points in a row. Emily Weber was on the serve for that. 16-4. They broke out to a 16-4 lead. And to their credit, they did not let Evansville back in. It stayed at 10 points the entire time. They just did not let Evansville get anything going and finished at 25-11. That might have been the best set of volleyball that they had played all season. And for it to look as bad as it did the rest of the way, it was just nightmare. Set 4, Evansville jumped out to a 3-2 lead again. Emily Weber came in, started serving, extended Indiana State to a 7-3 lead. But Evansville just they found their groove. They just went on some small runs that Indiana State just could not muster another rally of more than 2 after that. And really, they only had one other spot there where they had consecutive points. You're not going to win if you can't score consecutive points. This was one. This was Evansville's first Missouri Valley Conference win. I thought going in, Indiana State would win this one. Kind of surprised that they didn't. Leaders for Indiana State in kills: Kira Holland 16, Hallie Harderson had 11, Kimora Whetstone 6. So your third leader in kills only had 6. Aces: Emily Weber, Avery Hales, and Hadley Harderson, all with 1. Blocks: Ella Scott 2, Kira Holland 2, Kimora Whetstone 1. Assists: Emily Weber had 29 assists. Nice night for her. Avery Hales 7, Chloe Gilly 2. Digs: Chloe Gilly had 24. Hadley Harderson was 16 and Kiara Holland 9. So Hadley Harderson with a double-double with the 11 kills, 16 digs. Very, very solid night for her. Unfortunately, though, way too many hitting errors for the Sycamores in this one. Way too many. Looking at the standings, though, Indiana State tied for 4th. That is a 5-way tie in the Valley, so they're 2-2, 500 record. Again, looking at last year, they only won 2 conference games the entire season. So they've already matched that. With as disappointing as what Evansville was, they're still at 2-2. There's still a lot of volleyball to be played. They're 8-8. They're 500 team. This was a team that only won 5 matches all of last year. I think they've turned to where they have a winning mentality. But the problem was at Evansville, everyone had a bad night on the same night, with the exception of probably 1 or 2. And you're gonna get that from a young team. But man, that's a winnable game. Football. Saturday night, they went to Carbondale and played the Salukis of Southern Illinois, number 11 ranked team in the country. And it went about as what you would expect. Southern Illinois won 55-27. Scoring for Indiana State. In the first, Keegan Patterson had a 9-yard touchdown run. In the second, Nick Osho had a 39-yard touchdown run. In the third, Nick Osho had a 66-yard touchdown run. And in the fourth, Brock Riddle had a 14-yard touchdown run. Passing, Brock Riddle was who was the third-string quarterback on the depth chart. He was 7 for 17, 80 yards. Keegan Patterson was 6 of 9 with 44 yards. He had a very scary injury. He was hit hard up towards the head area. They were able to get him off the field into the tent. He did not return. Hopefully, he is okay. I have not seen or heard anything about his injury. And with it being college kids, I don't go digging for that information. Because sometimes that is family wanting to keep that private, and I am not going to be the one that digs around and break that information when they don't want it broken. Rushing, Nick Osho, he was a monster. He had 28 attempts. He ran for 211 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fantastic performance from him. Angelo St. Louis, he got 10 attempts. He ran for 54 yards. Keegan Patterson, again, before he left, he had 4 attempts, ran for 27. Brock Riddle, 6 attempts, 21. Damon Sturm, 3 attempts, 7 yards. And Brian Domino ran for 3 in his 1 attempt. Receiving. Zach Droudy Jr., 4 receptions, 58 yards, 30 was his long. Brian Domino, 4 receptions, 34 yards, 18 was his long. Rashad Rochelle, Salukis did a nice job of keeping him covered up for most of the night. He had 2 receptions for 15 yards, 8 was his long. And then E.J. Hartwell had 1 for 8 yards. Lance Reese had 1 for 6 yards. And Torrey French had 1 for 3 yards. Just receiving core just had trouble getting open. Thankfully, the rushing game was there. But when you go into play a number 11 team in the country at their home field, it's gonna be tough. And again, looking at the time of possessions here in their drives, I feel like they did a better job of how long they held the ball. Their first couple drives, that kind of, but they could only muster 6 plays and 4 yards total in those 2 drives. First one was a minute 5, then 43 seconds. But their next drive that resulted in a touchdown took them 4 minutes 20 seconds. Next drive, 3 minutes 3 seconds. Again, then their next one was the touchdown drive for the 66-yard scamper, minute 12. Punt, 2 minutes 45. Field goal attempt, 2:19. Then they went to the half. Then the second half, 3:10, 2:13, and then the 2:13 was another touchdown. The next drive, they held the ball for 40 seconds. They only ran 2 plays because of an interception, but 40 seconds. Then they had a 3-play 17 yards where they had to punt the ball, which was a minute 31. Then they closed out with a 3:03. And then their last drive was a touchdown. 9 plays, 3 minutes 25 seconds. So overall, not terrible. And really, time of possession, looking at Southern Illinois, it's comparable. Southern Illinois had 2 drives in the 4 minutes. Indiana State could only get to 1, but a tough loss there. But, like I said, number 11 in the country. Not a bad performance there at all. Looking at the Missouri Valley standings for football, Indiana State is tied for last. There are only 2 teams that have played 2 games. So 0-1 is going to get you in last place right now. They do have South Dakota next week, who's at 1-1. So we'll talk about that here in a second. Looking ahead to next week, we've got women's golf. They will be playing tomorrow and Tuesday at the Toledo Rocket Classic. Cross country is off until the 17th and 18th of October. Women's soccer, they will play Sunday at home. That is a homecoming weekend home game. So that's Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. They're playing Valparaiso, who is 0-2 in conference play. So hopefully they can get figured out what went sideways today against Drake and at least get a shot off, maybe. Volleyball. They play at Murray State on Friday night at 7 and at Belmont Saturday night at 6. Belmont, second place, tied for second in the Valley at 3-1. Murray State's 0-4 in the Valley. They have lost 9 straight. So hopefully they can get a win there. And when you look at Belmont's one loss was to Indiana State on the 27th of September. Indiana State won 3-1. I kind of thought this was a kind of an upset, so to speak. I would say the scores, the standings indicate that, but Indiana State did win the first one 25-16, and then 25-22, 17-25, 25-23. So a lot can happen there, but we'll see. I'm sure Belmont will be looking for a little revenge there, so we'll see how that works out. But Murray State, that should be a win. That should get the volleyball team over that win total from last year that I talked about, and hopefully on to bigger and better things there. Football, they got homecoming. They got South Dakota. South Dakota dropped out of the top 25. The new one comes out tomorrow. South Dakota was the last team in. They did just beat Murray State 49-24. I don't know about any of the other teams there on that 20 to 25 range that they could jump over. So we will see about that. But it's homecoming, so that game gets played at 1 p.m. Memorial Stadium. So it could be another ranked team by the time we see them. Just another toughie for the Sycamores. With that, we will wrap up this week's episode. If you have anything you want me to discuss, email me, buckysportshow@gmail.com. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. We'll see you next time. As always, enjoy the games and go Sycamores!